Hello everyone, it's Tori and welcome to episode number 4 of the Debrief podcast. Hello everybody, happy Monday. In today's episode, we're really going to be talking about soft femininity, specifically what it means to be a soft feminine woman in regards to over-masculine women in society and how we can preserve our femininity in regards to our mental and our physical health. Now with this, what soft femininity really means to me is 5 things. The first one being in tune with my emotions. The second thing being having self-confidence that does not put down other women. Third, nurturing others. 4, self-acceptance, and 5, staying out of toxic environments and cultures. Now, in this episode, I'm really going to hit on all of these aspects and show you guys how they relate to being a soft feminine woman. But for now, we're going to start with number 1, and number 1 is being in tune with my emotions. So when it comes to being in tune with your emotions, we all know as women we're very, very emotional, and a lot of us are emotionally intelligent as well. But oftentimes I feel like in the modern day world, we are put in a position where we have to feel masculine and honestly overly masculine because of multitude of things. Like it could be that maybe we didn't have a father figure in our life to show us, good and, healthy masculinity. And we had to learn masculinity from our moms. And that means that they were masculines, which made us have masculine traits. And honestly, the process and the cycle goes on and on. But that's just one example of how kind of masculinity is imposed on women, especially in the modern day world. And oftentimes as women, especially in modern day society, we're kind of put in this box that we're expected to, be masculine. And that's why a lot of women, they have to quote unquote act hard or act rough and tough because of maybe they lacked a male figure in their life or whatever it was. And so what that does over time is it lessens our ability to feel feminine and to accept the fact that, we are very emotional and soft individuals. So when it comes to being, in tune with your emotions as a woman, we have to accept that I am an emotional person. You are an emotional person. There is nothing wrong with being emotional. And with being emotional, that comes with emotional intelligence over time. You cannot develop emotional intelligence if you have never been able to express nor feel your emotions. So when it comes to emotional intelligence, we're talking about, how can we take care of ourselves emotionally and how can we take care of others emotionally? And I feel like emotional intelligence is not only is it seen through other people, but it's also developed through yourself. So say, you were growing up, you were in an environment where emotions were silenced. Maybe you are a person from that experience that doesn't have very high emotional intelligence because you were never given the ability to feel such emotions, to learn about such emotions. And I feel like that's not only, a problem in women, but also in men and in society in general. So with all of this being said, how as a woman can I be in tune with my emotions and develop emotional intelligence? And the answer is to allow yourself to feel. As you grow older and you experience things with people and you have kind of tougher situations, we go through a lot as people. And so I feel like, when we come home at the end of the day and we don't give ourselves a break, we don't do those things for ourselves that allow us to feel a sort of emotion and not always be so cut off and so distant and so numb, then that allows us to really know who we are as people and to kind of, study ourselves in a way. So some things that you can do, to help yourself feel and to allow yourself that comfortable space to feel is to do things for yourself. Like, some things that I do is when I was younger, I used to draw a lot, and that was kind of how I would think about things and process things. But, as I got older, I kind of lost that habit. And now for me, like what I like to do is I like to work out. When I work out, that's kind of the only thing on my mind. And I think about things when I work out, but it's like I'm simply thinking about, bettering myself, and I'm there regardless if I want to be there or not. I know that I'm doing something for myself. And say if I'm on the treadmill, like I'll be on the treadmill walking for like 30 minutes to an hour. And on the treadmill, like I can think about things like, how do I feel about this situation? Or I can read a book. Like it's certain things like that allow you to embrace parts of yourself that can contribute towards your emotions and developing emotional intelligence. So to share with you guys a little bit of a personal experience I have with this, growing up, I'm a daddy's girl. If any of the girls know, like, your dad is your best friend, especially as an only child, like, as the only girl, like, your dad does everything for you. We're big spoiled, y'all, like, big spoiled. But, I was always around my dad, and my dad's an amazing person, not to put our personal business out there a lot, but, my dad also, had anger issues, like, growing up, and most dads honestly do. But growing up, I would always be around that kind of like negative environment at times with him. And so I guess that caused me to develop over masculine traits. And that developed in me as a young child. And I would grow up having, the same traits that he would exemplify because, that's what I was seeing and that's what I was learning from. So it began at a certain point to become that I was negative and that I had anger issues. I remember, y'all, my junior year in high school, I was going through a lot. And that was the time that I realized, like, wow, like, I am not embracing my femininity. I am not, soft and loving and nurturing. I'm very hard, rough and tough. I'm very angry at the world. And, that for me was kind of like a wake up point because, at a certain time looking back, I was like, what was I so angry about? What was I so mad about? And I was like mad at the world. And so that was just, me exemplifying over masculine traits because, not only because I was around my dad who had anger issues all the time, but because, at the time I was just getting out of a relationship with someone who didn't make me feel feminine. I always had to plan things. I always had to, be the guy and do what the man should do in the relationship, which also caused me to have over masculine qualities and over masculine traits. And so with this, I really want to just put that into perspective for you guys and show you guys that I've been there and I've done that. And I'm still learning, how to be feminine. And I feel like I said in the beginning, femininity and masculinity is a concept that is so misconstrued these days. Like, we have the concept of masculinity equaling to being rough and tough and being quote unquote hard. And we have femininity as being like girly and liking makeup and all of these things. That is not what that is, you guys. And I'm really excited to put that into perspective and to share with you guys at least what I believe those two truly mean. So to move on to number two is having self-confidence that does not put other women down simultaneously. And the reason why I mention this, you guys, is because I feel like society plays a big role in this. But what I want to hint at first is that self-confidence plays into every single little part of what we do in our day. It also plays a part into how we treat others and how other people view us. So say, if I wake up in the morning and I look at myself, I'm like, oh, like, you're dirty, like I don't like the way that your eyebrows look and this and that. How do you think that's going to dictate how I feel the rest of the day, right? And I think, and I'm speaking specifically to the woman right now, but if you are a male watching this, I want for you guys to see kind of how we feel from a woman's perspective with all of these things and these societal expectations of us of what we're supposed to be and how we respond to that. But going back to speaking to the woman, I want you guys to understand that you need to be kinder to yourself. This is something that I've struggled with so much. Like, I don't know, back in about my 8th grade year, I was really, I wouldn't say I didn't have self-confidence, but I was really always critiquing myself, like over-analyzing myself. And I didn't give myself enough credit physically. And I always had people telling me, oh, you're a beautiful girl, and I love your eyes, or something like that, right? But I didn't know how to accept that because I didn't see it within myself. And so it took me a huge learning curve and a huge part of, self-development to be able to accept myself, like, actually, I do have nice eyes. I do like my hair. I do like this about myself. And that just started from being kinder to myself, but I don't want to be and to kind of overshadow the fact that, oh, just be kind to yourself. Like, it makes you self-confident and makes everything better, rainbows and butterflies. But the fact is it doesn't, because we live in a society where women have this expected image. Like, we're supposed to have slim waist, big butt, kind of like Ice Spice. Like, not everyone is going to look like Ice Spice. Like, a lot of people, we don't have the same hair, we don't have the same body, we don't have the same figure. And it's all of those things that I feel like, men constantly drool over. And as women, we're kind of like, well, what do these men see in these, botched up, and not to, put them down, these are beautiful and probably amazing women, but what do they see in them that makes them so attractive, that lessens how men see me? And that's not necessarily speaking from a scarcity mindset or from an insecure mindset, but that's kind of the way that society's played out. And there's this one quote, I actually said it the other day, but it's, comparison is the theft of joy. And so we live in a society where we're constantly kind of pushed to compare ourselves, especially with social media. I go on my social media and I follow these fitness influencers because a lot of you guys know I'm really big on fitness. I love to work out. But, the fitness industry has become more sexualized as the years have went on. And so there are some influencers, as amazing people they are, and they have great figures, I even sometimes catch myself looking at them and be like, dang, like, I wish I had that body. Like, maybe I need to work harder. And that steals the joy from me working my butt off in the gym, and being proud of myself. That takes away from that. So I want women watching this to understand that it is not fair to compare ourselves to these top model celebrities or these people who have been working out for years. If you have been working out for a month, a week, a year, 2 years, and you're comparing yourself who has been working out for 10 years, or someone who's a master in physiology and anatomy, and someone who, is a certified physical trainer, that's not fair. That is not fair at all. You are not being kind enough to yourself. And we have to also accept, with everything being said, that when we are looking at other people, we have to understand that they are at a different spot on their timeline than we are. Every single person has a different timeline. So if I'm looking at somebody else in their timeline, not only are they on a different timeline, but they're on a different spot on their timeline than I am on my timeline. So what is there to compare? So in order for us to feel soft and feminine and to, embrace our femininity as women, we need to understand that we need to find ways to boost our self-confidence. And like I said in the beginning about, doing little things for yourself, it's the same concept here. But it's also, speaking to yourself in a highly positive way. I've had people, I remember I went to a job interview, you guys. And after the interview was done, before we were leaving, the interviewee said to me, he said, Tori, I really, really like you because you just radiate this like yellow energy. Like, it's like your aura is yellow, right? And that's honestly a little bit of an odd thing to say, but I took that into account because it's like, wow, people can see my energy through my confidence, through the way I represent myself. And that's why self-representation and confidence go hand in hand. Because if your confidence is low, but you're trying to represent yourself as this high up person, there's a huge discrepancy in that. And so that's why we really need to work on having self-confidence. And when we come to work on that, that can entail, you guys, I don't know, going to a coffee shop one day a week and, getting your favorite latte. Or, creating, I have my vision board up there. I see it every single time I'm at my desk. And I'm always looking at it. And so I work through those things one by one. And that's a way for me to kind of boost my self-confidence and be like, this is the woman I want to be, but that doesn't discredit the woman I already am. And so, doing little things like that, I said I like to go to the gym. If you want to work out, if you want to get your body right, then go to the gym. And those habits not only will teach you to love yourself more because you're doing things for yourself, but it also entails other habits and other things that are really, really good for you. So to circle back really quick to having confidence without putting down other women, I really want to say, you guys, just to not talk about this super much because it really is kind of simple. But when you walk in a room, you want to be the most radiant and powerful person in that room. But that doesn't mean that you should have to step on other people's necks to feel that way. And when I say that, I mean if you guys are having a conversation with another woman, right? you shouldn't have to feel like you have to say something to make yourself and to kind of like put yourself on a pedestal, right? When I say put yourself on a pedestal, that's not necessarily a negative thing, but there are ways that you can do that, by not being so conceited. And I feel like today we have a lot of competition, not only between women, between sexes as well, but specifically between women. And I don't understand that. And it's because, I come from a place where I'm a very genuine person. I thrive in vulnerability because, that's where you can really show somebody how genuine you are. But if you're walking kind of with like a stick up your butt and like I have this attitude like, oh, I'm better than everybody else, and I walk into the room and like, everybody's looking at me like I know they are, like I'm prettier than every girl in here, that is not an attractive attitude to have, and that shows. And it actually shows the opposite of what you want to convey. So that's why I feel like, energy plays so much. And that's why, having self-confidence and self-acceptance is really, really key in the ways and, representing yourself and being able to portray to people that I am and you are a very high value and a very high energy woman. Okay, you guys, so we're going to shift focus and we're going to start talking about number 3. And number 3 is nurturing others. Now, I strongly, strongly believe that as women, it is kind of in our nature to cater towards others, to nurture others, to be caring and to be loving. As emotionally intelligent people, emotionally vulnerable people, we love to, do the little things and to show people how we care and how we express that we love others. And specifically, I'm going to touch on relationships and friendships. But right now I'm going to say something about relationships and how that kind of correlates to us nurturing our man in relationships and how it kind of contributes to our femininity. So when it comes to relationships, you guys, if you are with a man, and this is, I don't know how else to put this, but this is the most direct way I can possibly put this. If you are with a man who is so secure in his masculinity, I promise you, you will be secure within your femininity because that is the environment you are within, right? So say if you're with a man, right, and he's not secure within his own masculinity, you're doing all of the things that he should be doing as the man in the relationship. You're playing the masculine role. Your feminine side, your feminine energy is going to be shut down whether you realize it or not. And there are going to be times where you feel like you can't relax and you have to do this and you have to do that because your femininity is being shut down by the lack of masculinity in that environment. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that when we get into relationships, the first thing I ask my friends when they start talking about a new guy is, does he make you feel feminine? And if the answer is no, I promise you that is not the person you want to be with. And it's so clear and direct, and it's that simple. Like, that's the line, and that should be one of the non-negotiables that we have as women. Because our femininity is so, so fragile. And people underestimate how fragile femininity truly is. And so when it comes to friendships as well, like I was saying in the previous clips, if I'm with a friend and she's constantly like trying to compete with me and she has to put me down to feel better about herself, that is not someone I want to be friends with, because in that environment, I can't express how I am as a feminine woman, and I can't express my natural femininity to be loving, to care, to not be competitive, And so I think that all plays into the role of nurturing others. Like, how can I nurture others in, response to taking care of my femininity? So I heard this quote one time, you guys, and it doesn't only correlate to just relationships, but it can correlate to friendships too. And it is that if a man, or we're going to talk about men because this is what the quote is kind of originated around, but if a man expects you to be an angel to him, he must create a heaven for you. And when I tell you, I was so mind blown when I heard that, because it's so true. When a man has a confidence within himself and he's comfortable within his masculinity, that allows you to be an angel and to be submissive to him. And it's kind of the same thing with friendships. And when we're talking about nurturing others, like, if I, as a friend, am not open to being vulnerable, if I am closed off, if I am in competition with other people, then I am not creating a safe and vulnerable space for my friend or my partner to feel like they can be themselves, to feel like they can be in their feminine energy or in their masculine energy. So you guys, moving on to number 4. Number 4 is self-confidence. And I honestly feel like we've talked about this a little bit, and honestly enough in the kind of previous topics that I brought up. But I just want to give it its own light really quick. And that really comes down to the fact that it is in direct correlation with self-confidence. Like, first, what you really have to do, honestly, I should have put this one first before self-confidence. But before you are able to become, confident within yourself, you have to be able to accept yourself first, right? So when it comes to self-acceptance, accept that you are not like those model bodies that you see on the internet. Like that, unless you go through some, like surgery or, to look like them, that will never be you. And you have to accept that. And there is nothing wrong with that. And when I say that, that has no negative connotation, you guys. Absolutely none. Like, you should be okay with how you are physically and how you are, mentally. And if you are not okay, and I'm going to say this, if you are not okay with where you are mentally, then it is up to you to change that. But when it comes to physically, there's only so much you can change about yourself physically. And so when we're talking about self-acceptance, it also plays into being kind to yourself and understanding, you might work out 6 days a week, 7 days a week, but you're still not ever going to look like that girl that you compare yourself to, because you guys are completely two different people with completely two different lives. And like the thing about it is that, we discredit all of these little things that play into that. Like, she might have lower cortisol levels than you are, and, your cortisol levels might be high. Maybe that's why it's harder for you to lose the weight or whatever it is. Like, we don't think about these things. We're so quick to make an assumption and assume that, oh, I want to look like her, when really, like, that might not even be physically possible. And we have to accept that and be okay with who we are as women. Like, I don't look at another woman now. I used to, but I don't look at another woman now and be like, dang, I want her body. I'm like, she has a nice body, but I'm okay with the body that I have, because that was the body that was given to me by the Creator. Yes, I can work out, I can alter it in some type of way, but there's only so much I can do. And you guys, I'm not necessarily all like talking about like the physical, but I know the physical is very prominent in today's world when it comes to, comparison. So that's why I really wanted to talk about and hint on that when it comes to self-acceptance. But self-acceptance, that's everything, physical, mentally, all of those things. So let's just take that into account as well. Now, you guys, the fifth and last thing that I want to talk about is, staying out of toxic culture and toxic environments, and how that plays a role in, becoming the woman that you've always wanted to be and embracing your feminine self. I don't think that a lot of people understand how your environment and the people you hang out with and the people that you surround yourself really determine who you are and who you are going to be as a person. And when I say that in correlation to femininity, like, if you are hanging around highly masculine women, or, guys who are quote unquote masculine, but they're, always rough and tough, and they're not allowing you to feel vulnerable and to feel, soft and loving and all of those things. And if you're in a relationship with that type of person, a friendship with that type of person, then do you really think that that's going to enable you to embrace your feminine side, to embrace who you are as a feminine woman? No. The answer is no. And so when it comes to, surrounding yourself in certain environments, as the people in college know, like, there's a whole bunch going on in college, like, especially when it comes to party culture, drinking, social environments. Part of the reason why I stopped going out was because I felt like I was not representing and had the ability to represent my best self as I allowed myself to be in those such environments. And the reason I say that is because, I remember this one time that I went out, and it was a lot of people in the room. It was fun for a while, y'all. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, sometimes, like, partying can be fun to a certain degree. But I was out, and I felt so by myself. Like, I felt like I was the only one in the room. I just felt so kind of like isolated. And I felt like I was seeing things that other people weren't, right? I was paying attention to things that other people weren't. And I felt like I was around very, very highly masculine women, and quote unquote guys who were masculine, but really they weren't masculine. And the reason I say this, you guys, is because in that environment, I felt like I was around highly masculine women. And it was like kind of like this competition energy that I was mentioning before. Like, as we know, the girls that got, we get dressed up, like we want to put on makeup, because guys are going to be there. And, guys are always scouting. And not only because guys are there, like, it's not like that, like, type of pick-me vibe. But that's just kind of like the energy, like you wouldn't go out with sweatpants and a t-shirt on with your hair in a messy bun, you know what I'm saying? Like you want to present yourself in a good way, physically. And so what, like, kind of I learned from that is that wasn't the environment where I felt like my femininity was able to be expressed. And for, and I'm not saying, like, don't go out or, like, you can't feel feminine in those such environments. I'm not saying that at all. That's just what it was personally for me. And that's completely okay, and I'm okay with that. But when it comes to not only, like, partying culture, it also comes down to other toxic environments, like I said, friendships, and even relationships with family too, you guys. Like, there are, like, if you need to cut off a family member because of something, me personally, I'm not opposed to that. Some people might be like, oh, no, that's wrong. But you know what, y'all? Sometimes you gotta do what's best for you. And like I always say, keep it moving and keep it pushing. But at the same time, yes, family's a little bit more delicate when it comes to that. But, if you are feeling like you are in an environment that you feel shut down, your femininity feels shut down, and you are, embracing more masculine energy than you need to as a woman, then that is not an environment that you want to be in. So my advice to you is to look at, what environments you are in, whether it's party culture, whether it's relationship, whether it's friendship, whether it's family. Look at that and be like, I feel like I can be, like, vulnerable? Can I feel like I can be emotional in this environment? Can I feel like I can be catering towards other people and nurturing other people? And if it's like, you can't feel that, and if you can't feel soft, because, like, I'm going to hit on another thing again. Like, as women, we're soft. And so masculinity makes us hard. Like, I don't know in what other ways to put that other than it just being that. Masculinity makes us hard as women. It shuts down that soft and vulnerable feeling. So if you're in situations and environments where you can't feel soft, then if you're trying to work on, feeling feminine and, embracing your femininity, maybe it's time that you cut that person or that, relationship, or not involve yourself in that such environment. All right, you guys, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys got some value in this as always, and I will see you guys in episode number 5.